Hey, Toronto, welcome to How's the Market podcast and 2000. You're still Kate?
Yeah, still
Okay,
Kate.
I'm Dave.
Yeah. And we haven't seen you in a whole year. It's crazy. I would like to give the people a summary of 2023 and everything that happened and what we saw.
And I think everyone wants to hear our predictions,
Yes.
even though we're a little late to the party making predictions, but everyone, it's always a fun game to play.
Yeah, let's talk about what happened, what we saw in 2023. So, to summarize 2023, the GTA average sale price was 1,126,000. So, we are down from 2022, the
Yeah.
peak of 2022, but we are still up almost $200,000 from the beginning of COVID, which was March 2020.
Yep.
Home prices are still up from pre-COVID rates pretty significantly overall. We also saw an increase in prime rates. Back in March 2022, we were enjoying 2.7%, and we are up to 7.2%. So we did a little reversal.
Yeah.
And I know people are feeling that burn as well. That definitely affected affordability this year.
And that's the prime rate, just to note that, versus a lot of people will talk about where the overnight rate is with the Bank of Canada,
Yes.
which we're at 5% right now.
We didn't end up seeing a huge surge in listings this year as we were expecting. Last year,
Yeah.
we definitely saw more sales and there was a little bit more competition. And we kept telling everybody, wait till 2023, wait till the spring summer market. We're going to see more listings. And we didn't really see that come into fruition.
Yeah, it was certainly an interesting year. A lot of people were patiently waiting on the sidelines for a huge crash just to come in and scoop up and get get properties at a fire sale rate, but it didn't really happen. And it's interesting year in terms of, we saw what here in the office we call zombie listings, the listings that sort of hang around and get relisted, often by the same agent, sometimes by different agents. And I think right now a quarter of the listings out there have been relisted once or twice before.
Yeah, and some of them are pretty significant price decreases and you're going to see those properties move, but a lot of them they're relisting at the same price, or they'll do switch it to $9.99. They'll lower it by $1 just to try and re-engage people with the listing, but they're not making any price movement.
Yeah, it's really the separation between the buyers wanting the deal of a lifetime and sellers saying, hey, no, this is the price I want.
Yeah,
so
and
that gap was there throughout last year.
We saw condos fall off a bit, still a little bit in the gutter. If you're a buyer and you're interested in picking up a condo, we'll get into predictions later, but I personally think we are nearing the bottom of the market, or as close as most people will want to get while still being comfortable.
Right. We saw the condo market in the core move more into a buyer's market. A lot of investors looking to get out of it. So we saw a lot of condos that were vacant, listed, helping to keep rental prices high as those come off the rental market. But buyers are somewhat hesitant. If you see a condo up at a great price, yeah, it would move. If it had the price now to move strategy versus the kind of market value or slightly above.
Yeah, and it definitely depends if it's sitting vacant or if it's tenanted and what that tenant's rate is. That affects it a lot.
And, it's also the condos themselves. So if your 540 square foot box in the sky looks like every other one,
yeah,
if yours can differentiate somehow, it's a loft or it's a cool building, desirable area. So that's what we saw play out in the condo.
Yeah, market. And I feel like in the market overall, there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines who want to buy. People want to buy in Toronto. People need to live in Toronto. A lot of people work in Toronto and they have family here. So there's a lot of buyers sitting on the sideline waiting to see what happens, waiting for that nudge from the Bank of Canada. They've been holding rates, and I think that's brought a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of hope in the market.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of people, but they're really waiting to see that first interest rate drop off. They're really waiting to see that signal from the Bank of Canada before they move in. The problem is everybody wants prices to go down. Everybody wants the lowest price. But then as soon as prices start going down, everyone fears a collapse. And kind of like sheep, people move as sheep and they refuse to buy once prices are low. Obviously, we have high interest rates, so that's a huge part of the pressure. But I always find it so funny because I feel like as soon as interest rates start going down and everyone starts coming back into the market, everybody follows, just like in a group. They don't feel confident unless they think other people are also confident.
I've said the Toronto real estate market it's polar opposites, right? Nobody else is looking. That's when the deals are there.
And we get a lot of headlines from the media. And I really wonder how much that has a play in buyers' perceptions, sellers' perceptions, how they perceive the market, and their willingness to come in and transact.
Studies have been done that two things that sort of drive any decision, fear and greed. And the fear button is about 4 or 5 times better than the greed buttons. The headline's just to get you to read the article, right?
Absolutely.
So read the article,
Yeah.
think about it, talk about it.
As our broker pointed out, a lot of these articles, a lot of these people are pulling research based on last year. And last year was a high.
I find stuff to hit the mainstream media it's usually like a quarter behind.
Yeah.
3 months behind. So,
absolutely. And I'm just going to put up a chart here on the screen magically. If you take a look, you can see that prices have not dropped off significantly. We did have a peak, and it seems like we're normalizing now, but we don't see this huge jump. We, in fact, see very similar prices to the very beginning of COVID or the first year of COVID. We're still $200,000 up from March 2020. I think there's a lot of fear mongering. I think there's a lot of flashy headlines saying the market's bottoming out. And you hear it from friends and family because they've read it in the news. So it is something to take in mind. Do your research and look locally.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll get into this later, but it was the busiest sort of year-end holiday time that I've had in my decade of real estate, just with actually going with buyers to see stuff, making offers, having offers, getting deals done on listings that we have. And then people reaching out saying, hey, thinking about doing this in the next year.
Yep.
What the heck is going on?
All those buyers who've been waiting the last couple of years and sellers, they're getting a little bit of confidence. They're like ready to go. So in 2023, we're currently sitting at 3 months of inventory. 2 months is pretty average for the city of Toronto, but we haven't seen that in the last few years.
And that puts us 3 months of inventory is still technically a seller's market.
Yes, but a lot of that is zombie listings. A lot of that is that quarter of those listings that are just sitting there.
Yeah, I find the best way to look at the market is we've got these listings that we call them zombie listings, being relisted so many times. And then you see a new listing come out and that might end up getting multiple offers, right?
Yeah.
And it's because this is the first look at it. That's when you get the most exposure on it, the most eyes on it. There are a lot of buyers that are quietly looking for the right thing and for the right home at the right price. There's a lot of people that are willing to make a move right now.
Absolutely. In terms of total sale numbers, so we did see a decline from 2022. We are currently at 66,000 sales for 2023, approximately. Yep. Compare that to 2022 when we had 75,000 sales and the peak at 2021, which was 121,000 sales. That's a pretty big number to wrap your head around.
Yeah, I think that was the most sales ever in 2021.
Yeah, that's when we were getting 30, 40 offers on properties. If you were a buyer, it was rough.
Yeah, and so we're basically cut that in half.
Yep. And everyone locked in those super low interest rates, a lot of which are starting to mature.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of renewals coming up in 24 and 25.
Yep.
All these things that go into our consideration for our predictions.
Yep.
Or did you ask the magic 8 ball?
I shook the magic 8 ball and said, are there going to be foreclosures? I think people have a misconception around foreclosures in Canada as well. It's not the same as the States where they're a hot commodity and it's like an auction year and you can get really great deals. In Canada.
But I saw on an HGTV that I could negotiate my closing costs. That's what I do.
But in Canada, the bank has to try and sell it at current market value and they're still being fairly aggressive in their pricing.
Yeah, so that's the difference between a power of sale and a foreclosure. The power of sale, the current owner doesn't have the ability to control the sale anymore, but they actually might have some equity in it. So like with a power sale, they might actually get a check written to them at the end of it. But foreclosure, it's, let's say the bank, the lender has already seized the asset and now they're liquidating it. So their appetite to get it off their books write off as a loss is higher. And so that's why in the States you see these foreclosures sales where people get crazy deals. Yeah.
And I think in Toronto, those foreclosures tend to be around either uninhabitable properties or properties that are in rougher condition.
We don't see that. It's usually, it goes to the power sale and it gets done.
Yeah.
And we've done a few lately offered as buyers trying to acquire them. And it's pretty, you can see the pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
They might price it trying to get multiple offers. If they don't get up multiple offers, they'll usually do a period because they have to show they're doing their proper due diligence to market the property.
Yep.
But if there's only one offer on it, there's a way to negotiate with them. And typically they'll sign back at 5,000 less than the offer price.
Yeah.
And they'll slowly negotiate with you. And sometimes that very slow negotiation where it's their first discount might be 5,000 and then the next one might be 1,000.
Yeah.
So it could be, very difficult to get these crazy deals that everyone thinks is going to happen with it.
Yeah. And they want to show that they're not lowering their pants right away. They want to show that they've done the work, they've made the
Yeah.
effort to try and get
They're
market value.
obligated to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they have a fiduciary duty to do that. So it's hard. You can get good stuff. It gets more complicated when there's tenants involved,
Yeah.
as always. And of course, in that power sale, the lender is going to warrant nothing. So they cross out pretty much like
everything.
a third, half of the standard agreement that we always use. And it's
So something to keep in mind too about people who think that the market's got to bottom out, we're going to get all these power of sales, they're going to be able to get something dirt cheap. You are giving up a lot of security when you purchase one of those. You are giving up a lot of your rights. You're giving up all your warrants.
Yeah.
Basically, you better hope that house is in tip-top shape where
yeah.
the bank is going to warrant nothing. So you're giving up a lot of security to get that discount, which can be fairly significant, can be minimal. It depends on the lender. It depends on what their appetite is.
It's amazing to see how different when you deal with the banks or the lenders are. Like if you're trying to get money from them, they might ask for like your kid's birth certificate or like they want all your T4s. They want some intimate knowledge.
Yep.
But when they're selling to you, this is it. Take it.
You don't get anything.
Yeah.
House doesn't have a floor. Take it as is.
Sounds like a you problem.
So major takeaways from 2023. Affordability is still really an issue. It's still pretty high. People are having trouble affording homes. And huge part of that is the interest rate amount.
We've seen inflation start to come down, which is a positive sign. But I think a lot of people have survived some of these high inflationary periods by leaning on the credit card.
Yep.
Canada, I think when you look at countries across the world, we've got some of the highest consumer debt in
and
households.
I think a lot of people also started spending in the last 2 years once the lockdowns ended. But I think a lot of people put stuff onto their credit card and they're slowly paying it off. They're slowly making those payments. Borrowing money is expensive right now.
It's nice to see in the last little bit that the 5-year fixed mortgage rates come below 5 again.
Yes, that is nice.
So the bond, the predictors that they looked at it for mortgage rates is already pricing in discounts.
Yep.
That's and a lot of the chatter coming out of the Fed in the States and the Bank of Canada is that this is the end of the heightening period and we're going to be transitioning into rate cuts next year. Of course, everybody's got their own opinion about how many and when and how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But,
and of course, there's no guarantee on that. Bank of Canada has very historically said one thing and then done another. When I think of fixing in on a 5-year fixed mortgage right now, it sounds crazy to me, but some people for that security to know that they have a flat payment.
Are you saying you have a tumultuous relationship with the Bank of Canada?
I think
you can't trust them?
I think everyone in Canada
never do what you say.
Has a tumultuous relationship with the BOC. Another key takeaway, people are still operating in this market. So overall sales are down, but I wouldn't say they are down massively for what we might have expected given the rate of price drops and high interest rates, high inflation, affordability being an issue. Still 66,000 sales for the year of 2023, slightly down from 75,000 the year before. And as you said, inflation's dropping. It's still sticky. A lot of that, I believe, is because gas prices have eased a bit. I don't know if you remember those days of $1.80, $1.75 gas prices. We're down to about $1.40 right now. So
some of us drive diesel, Kate, and we're still up around $1.60.
My entire life, I've never seen diesel prices higher than gas prices.
It's rare.
Yeah.
Right now, the one thing that's keeping the highest component to keeping inflation higher is actually mortgage payments, is the interest on mortgage payments. Recognizing that, hopefully when this comes down, we can get to that target rate of 2% that the good old Bank of Canada would like.
I think that's what everybody's hoping for. Okay, let's move into predictions. Predictions for 2024. Why don't we start talking about interest rates?
Interest rates. Okay.
What do you take your crystal ball?
Okay.
The crystal ball. What do we think is going to happen with interest rates?
So interest rates are currently, I think the overnight rate's at 5%. What a lot of people what the economists are calling for, everyone seems to be on board for rate cuts. And everyone's sort of projecting the first rate cut around sometime in Q2. So maybe towards the summer. And a lot of people are saying 3-4 rate cuts, somewhere from 75 basis points to a full basis point.
Yep.
And I think that seems pretty solid. In the States, they actually called for 6 rate cuts.
Yeah. And I would say if you want to predict what's going to happen with Canadian interest rates, you really we follow the States. If the States hold, we're probably going to hold. If the States raise, we're probably going to raise. So it's a very good indicator of what's going to happen here.
Yes, the economies are very different, and especially the housing market, but there is an importance to maintain the relationship, and it has the effect on the dollar and the ability to import and export.
Yep.
But yeah, we always look to see what Big Brother's doing.
Yeah. Big brother down south.
Yeah. So my prediction is that we'll see that full basis point. So 4 cuts.
I personally think we're going to see it sooner rather than later. From everything
Yeah,
I've read, from the environment we're in, from the way prices are
so
going.
you're leaning more towards like the start of Q2 than the
Yeah,
end. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think April, May, there's a very good chance that we might see some kind of movement.
And I guess always the question is, so what does that translate to? And for like your 5-year fixed mortgage, right now you can get one under 5%, depending on terms and conditions and stuff like that. But I think we'll try and see mortgage rates somewhere in the 4 to 5% is where we are now. It's closer to 4,
Yep.
but maybe like in the 4.5.
Yep. And I think, the Fed was saying they're hoping to get it down to, a lot of banks believe it'll be around 4% by the end of the year.
So number of transactions.
Number of transactions.
So we were at, I think it's 20-year low.
Yeah.
For the 66,000 for 2023.
Not surprising when
So
we are
let's go with the safe one. There's going to be more.
There's going to be more. And that makes sense when we're at some of the highest interest rates we've seen in the last 20 years.
But
we're going to be at the lowest
how many
sales.
more?
How many more?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to hit 2022's number. I think it's really going to depend on the amount and the speed of these interest rate decreases. I think if the Bank of Canada just keeps cutting interest rates, I think a lot of people are going to be coming back to the market and push up those transactions, especially a lot of sellers who have been waiting to see the market improve and a lot of buyers who have been waiting to see interest rates improve. I think it's going to be good for both parties. Even if prices go up, I think some people have really been waiting for that affordability to come back. So if I was to give a number, I would probably say around the same. I think 75,000, same as 2022. And I think that's being conservative.
I would say higher. My one concern that I've said all year is that we're setting ourselves up for another boom.
Yeah.
Whether that boom takes place this year or in 2025, I think we're definitely going to see that's going to translate into more transactions for sure.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be over 85.
You think over 85?
Yeah.
How long do you think it'll be until we see 121,000 transactions in a year again?
It's going to take we're definitely going to need more homes built.
We need more housing.
But with these levels of immigration, there's so many variables in that. But I think it's going to take a while to reach that 120.
At the end of the day, people need places to live and people need places to rent. And Toronto is a huge hub. Okay, average sale price. Do we want to start with what we think is going to happen in the condo market and then move to freehold?
Sure. I think the condo market it's still got some more correction to do. And I think it's going to be challenging. I think the real thing for condos is when the investors come back, and that means rent prices have to either go up or the cost of ownership has to go down.
Yeah.
And then I also think that what will stimulate that is your first time home buyers when rates come down enough that the cost of owning a condo, provided you have the down payment, pay for land transfer tax and all that, is if you have that available, it's going to be more affordable than renting.
Oh, absolutely. But with current interest rates, it's really hard to stomach some of the condo prices that are out there, especially if you're paying $800,000 for a 1-bedroom or a 1+10. It's expensive.
There's some entry level stuff that's starting to come down, and it's, if you can acquire it at a lower price, even though you might have a higher interest rate and you get a shorter term on it. So in 2 years, if interest rates are lower, then you can do that, or you can even if you can break the mortgage, do it 1 year. At least you're in a lower price and you're going to be paying, less off over a longer period of time.
Yeah. And then
freehold, I think we're going to see the recovery with freehold lead the way versus condos.
Yes.
I think that there's a lot of people out there who want to transition from condos, haven't been able to make the transaction in the last year and a half.
Those people, those step-up buyers who are either having another kid, looking to expand their family, just looking for some more space.
It's a lot easier for us to build more condos than it is freehold homes.
Absolutely.
And
it's a lot more affordable.
Even if we open up the entire green belt right now and say it's going to be all detached homes with nice big 50-foot lots, or larger, whatever you want, it's still, there's a finite number that we can put in.
Yep.
And When you build less homes and you add more people, the demand's going to go up.
Yep, you're putting pressure on a market.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm in the same boat as you. I think the condo market is going to take a little bit of time. I think it's really interesting for first-time home buyers right now, people who are currently renting and looking to, convert that monthly rental payment and start, making some equity on it and get a place where maybe you get a little bit more space or a more central location. But I do think it's going to take a little bit more time for recovery. But I agree. I think freehold always is the market leader, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Lastly, do we want to talk about some predictions with investors for 2024?
I think investors that have the access to the capital have already started to come back.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's been one of my busiest, call it the second part of December, start of January in my 10 years of real estate.
Yeah,
I think
Dave needs a break. Dave needs to go away.
Florida, here I come. I think that there's been a lot of people looking and they're reading the tea leaves and they're saying, okay, this is the bottom or close enough. So I think that this still represents an opportunity where there's enough distressed sellers that I can acquire something at a good rate or close enough to the bottom that I can stomach that. And based on the low number of transactions in 2023, the talk of interest rates coming down, increased immigration,
and rent prices. Rent prices are high right now.
Yeah, and high rent prices, that everything is setting stuff up to increase over time. So whether it's a long-term investors, they're always open to finding good deals, but even those that are thinking a little bit shorter term, maybe in the 5-year range,
Yep.
they're starting to get a little bit more interested, seeing what's going on and hoping to jump in before the rest of the competition and the rest of the people start thinking what they think.
Or even people who are looking to downsize over the next 5 years, purchase the property now, rent it out for 5 years, and then when you're ready to downsize, sell your place and move in.
There's all different types of investors. Hey, I'm buying for my kids so that when they go to university, they have a place. I think the real estate is more secure than the stock market. Everybody's got their theory.
Yeah. Okay. And then do we want to discuss the property tax increase that was just announced by Olivia Chow?
So let me try and remember the exact wording on this. It was a significant increase.
Yes.
Is what they're considering.
I couldn't find an exact number anywhere, but we were told significant.
Sounds scary, doesn't it?
Especially when you look at last year and Tory raised property taxes by 5.5%, which was the highest since Toronto's amalgamation in 1999.
Yeah, 5.5 sounds significant to me, doesn't it?
Yep. So that basically equates to, if your home is assessed at $600,000, your property taxes went up about $200.
Yeah. So let's look. How do we get here, and why is this happening?
Yeah.
So Toronto has a second land transfer tax.
Yep.
It's a great revenue stream for the city, but when we're at a 20-year low of transactions, that means the money coming in is a lot less.
Yep. Especially if you can buy a property right next door in Mississauga, some of those newer homes in Oakville, and not have to pay that double land transfer tax.
Yeah. Do you think in 2023 the city's spending and expenses went down?
I don't think so.
I would bet not. I haven't looked at it, but I would bet not. So
I believe we're at some pretty significant highs.
Yeah. And so there's debt.
Yep.
So we've got to find a way to pay for that. I think that's also what led to the so-called mansion luxury tax over $3 million properties. We've just seen that implemented at the start. So it was 9 days ago.
Yeah.
Time of filming of the podcast. So we'll see how that plays out. I think it's going to take a little bit for buyers and sellers to come to let the market settle on how that's going to impact the luxury market.
Yeah.
When you have half a number of sales, like, your revenue's down.
The money's got to come from somewhere. But it is unfortunate because the low property taxes are a huge attractor of people of why they want to buy in Toronto. Obviously, the proximity to downtown and services, but a lot of people prefer our property tax rates compared to somewhere like Oakville.
Yeah. So I always I grew up in Etobicoke, West End. So I compare to Port Credit because, go to Mississauga, Port Credit, closest, I guess, Lakeview area to where we are here in Etobicoke. And it's, hey, if you buy here, your taxes are higher, but you save on the land transfer tax. So what's the impact on the actual pricing there?
Yeah. And it's easy because you can just ask your client how long they plan to live there and you can figure out which makes more sense for them.
I would prefer if it has actually had higher property taxes.
And we got rid of the second land transfer tax. But unfortunately, Toronto
It
is
just
just
creates it just creates more of a division because the barrier to entry and get it done is get a transaction done is just that much more difficult.
absolutely. But Toronto instead is keeping the second land transfer tax and we're increasing property
Yeah,
tax
I mean,
rates.
the reality is our property taxes have been really low.
Yeah, for a while.
So I'm the word significant scares me.
Yeah. So I like what is significant? Is it double last year? Is it 10%?
The unfortunate reality of these land transfer taxes and the increase to property taxes, once they're there, the
They're not
likelihood of
going
them
away.
going away is very low.
It's hard to get rid of that.
Yeah, it takes significant downward pressure and change to make that happen.
And I think everyone would be okay with these increases if the government was actually using it to down pay our debt to help work instead of just running this massive deficit. But the problem is the city absorbs it and they just get used to it and they spend the money and it becomes part of the new budget. And it's, oh, we need property tax raises again.
Yeah,
There's no real accountability.
there's no benefit to coming in under budget
Yeah.
because your budget's just going to get cut.
They stay
No.
in hiding.
No. Okay. So how was your holidays?
It was great. Excellent. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I was sick for half of it.
Yeah.
A lot of that going around right now.
There
Yeah.
is.
I also got to spend some of it in Mexico, which was nice.
Yeah. That's always nice.
Yeah.
But you were telling me you had a busy holiday too with telling me to go do showings for you and offers for you and
Yeah.
get some leases done and
Yeah, showings,
some
offers,
sales.
had
Yeah.
a lot of inquiries from friends and family discussing the real estate market. People are starting to get it. It reminds me back in 2020 when interest rates were low and everyone was just like, what's happening with the market? What's happening with the market? I'm starting to feel that again of people like, hey, what's happening with the market? Is now a good time to buy? Is now a good time to sell?
To try not quote unquote sound like a smarmy real estate agent, if you have been considering a move, I think those that make it in Q1 are probably you're gonna have less to pick from, but you're gonna probably get a much better price than if you wait until later on in the year.
I think even Q1, Q2, because as we've always said, when the Bank of Canada makes a move, it takes about a year for us to really feel that impact. So we're
Yeah.
still feeling the impact in the market of these tightening restrictions, these higher interest rates. But I do think there's going to be a surge of buyers getting re-energized, coming back into the market and getting excited.
I do feel. I guess we should talk about this a little bit. I do feel like there has been a bit of a gridlock where people are sort of buttoned down the hatches and trying to weather the storm of higher interest rates and
Yep.
higher inflation. And now that there's light at the end of the tunnel, they're like, okay, we can make the move, or you know what, now's the time where I think we can get multiple offers and we can probably get a little bit more if we waited a little bit longer for the house
Yep.
or the condo, the property you want to sell.
I think there's also some sellers who have been sitting on the
Yeah.
sidelines who, if they can sell their house in 15 to 30 days and they can relatively know what they're going to get it for, and it's not going to sit there for 5 to 6 months, constantly chasing prices down, I think we're going to see a lot more sellers re-engage who have been wanting
Absolutely.
to move
But-
and are finally going to
Yeah,
make that change.
which means there's more product coming to the market,
Yep.
more good product, hopefully appropriately priced, which
Yep.
means all these buyers who've been on the sidelines can now, hey, actually, hey, there's 3 places I want to see, and you know what? I'm going to make an offer.
Yeah. And I think as real estate agents, we want a balanced market. We want things to calm down. Like obviously having a enhanced market where everybody wants to buy and everyone wants to transact as a real estate agent is fun. But there's a lot more work that goes into it, a lot more deals that don't get done, a
Yeah.
lot of competition. We enjoy a balanced market when buyers and sellers are both relatively happy. Hit the like button if your New Year's resolution was to join a gym and you did not.
Hit the subscribe button if your New Year's resolution was to join a gym and you did and still haven't been.
Enjoy your New Year's resolutions, lose those 10 pounds, hit the gym, no drink January, all those wonderful plans.
New year, new me.
We're living our best life. Thanks so much for joining us. What are your predictions for the real estate market in 2024? Are you looking to buy? Do you think there's going to be a huge decline still? Or do you think we're going to see a raise in prices for the GTA?
You want to see it in the comments below?
Yes.
We'll see you next time.
Down
Take
below.
care.